From its breathtaking landscape, captivating storylines, and well-designed characters, Genshin Impact has been one of a massive success of a game, not to mention the music production. For me, it's been one of the most obsessive music production I've ever seen in a game, with literal orchestra and concerts being thrown multiple times throughout the years. But of course, no games without flaws. Genshin in particular is a game where we see a lot of complaints for so many reasons. As a guy who has been playing this game for 3 years, I have to admit, Genshin is not always a fun game. In this video, I want to talk about everything wrong about Genshin Impact in terms of, well, many aspects, from gameplay, characters, to storyline. This video was made for the love of the game, just some valid discussion points and compiling some of the critics that has been around for years. And no, this is not your typical YouTubers complaining about games for views. This is legit just some discussion and overall critics for the games. I love Genshin, I play this game as a comfort games, and I wanna extend my love by discussing about these many things. So grab your popcorn and get ready to type something in the comment below. Let's start off with the overall characters leveling system. Gacha games has been pretty much the same things all over the board. They stall characters' development by adding multiple layers of level up mechanics. In Genshin case, you not only have characters and weapons to level up, you also have artifacts and talents level and constellation if you are lucky enough or rich enough. In the character level up, there is a stopping point called Ascension level. And to level this up, you need something called Ascension materials. And to get Ascension materials, you need to beat a certain boss enemy. But there is one problem. Boss enemy have respawn time after you kill them, making the entire process of leveling up taking up more time than it should have. You also need other things added, such as certain drops from enemies and local materials that possessed another challenge by itself. So we have weapon levels up, that we need certain materials, and talent level up, that also need certain talent book. The problem is they only appear at the certain days of the week. Well, luckily we can farm them all in Sunday, where everyone has their own, holiday from the job. But this makes another problem arises. The resins. I don't want to be that guy who complain about 160 resin cap, because it's always been the case and I am tired of people complaining about the same thing. I'm gonna be a little bit original here. Why we can only have 5 condensed resins? Why? The 5 condensed resins cap has been the weirdest things for me, not the 160 resin cap. I imagine someone have to work on their hated jobs for the entire weeks for the sake of putting warm food on the table, and they wanna play Genshin on Sunday because that's the only day they can play games, only to realize you can only make 4 condensed resins and spend only 15 minutes of farming artifacts, and the artifacts has bad substats anyway, and then you close Genshin and play another game instead. Imagine the universe where we can have 25 condensed resins and finally play the game for more than an hour on the weekend. Must be lovely, right? In my humble opinion, the 5 condensed resins cap is way too little, and I wish Hoyoverse can expand the limit a little bit. Maybe starts with 10 condensed resins. Believe me, I don't think it will affect the game's retention rate. On the other hand, I think it will make the players happy and love to play games even more. Let's move on to another topic, which is the slow quality of life update. It's always the stuff that people talk about recently. Genshin is a game with a slow update in a really simple quality of life sectors. Fortunately, it seems like Genshin has stepped up their QoL changes in these recent updates, maybe thanks to a certain games from the certain company. But I always find these updates are like really small updates that takes so slow to just fix them. I get it, Genshin is a quite bigger games now, so it's difficult to change the source code of the games. It has so much things going on in the game, but one of the most infuriating quality of life updates for me is the quote-unquote fixation of the skill cooldown problem in the Spiral Abyss. So back then, if you use your skills in the Spiral Abyss and then you decided to retry, the cooldown remains even after you restart the attempt. I was like, oh yeah, they finally fixed that, but why this took them 3 years just to do that? It just makes no sense to me. Do you know how much I rage quit because of a freaking cooldown remain after the restart of the stage? It's just weird, right? That issue only happened in Spiral Abyss, by the way, not in the other domain challenges. Speaking for the Spiral Abyss, let's talk about the endgame problem or the dry content in general. This is probably the most discussed topics in Genshin Impact so far. For a game that has such a cool combat mechanics, cool elemental reactions, beautiful fighting animations, cool characters, threatening enemies, and complex character build system, Genshin has almost no permanent combat contents. Spiral Abyss is the only exception. And yeah, this is the only combat stuff that matters. And if you have super strong characters already and you know some advanced mechanics of the games, even the Spiral Abyss will be a walk in the park. The combat endgame content has been the thing that the players base wanted the most. I think because of the sense of wasted potential for such a combat mechanics that also, wasted time for artifact farmings and stuff. What's the point of min-maxing your characters if there's nothing you can do with it? People are pretty disappointed in general. Genshin is a gacha game that currently has pretty minimum amount of combat endgames. Like, honestly, I know some gacha games that has literal hundreds of floors. I'm not even joking, hundreds. Well, I can talk for hours just about me trying to suggest some ideas for Genshin combat content, so I'm just gonna stop here for now because I don't wanna make this video too long. Move on to another topic, which is the slow release of cosmetics and skins. The thing that I wish Genshin has more is some more character skins. The one that we have so far, I have to admit, they are looking really good and well designed. There's just one problem, we don't have enough of them. I just really want some new Amber skin, man. Not just this rework, alternative, censored skin, whatever it is. I wish they can release skins more often. Chat is not always the essential thing in this game, since maybe you guys are not really liking to play multiplayer. But when I do wanna chat with some friends that I know, real life friends, some words are just impossible to type. I seriously don't know how the censorship works in this game. This game chat, sometimes it can be really infuriating. Genshin has a lot of tools. Some tools in Genshin can be pretty useful for explorations, but some of them are just pretty much useless. It feels like these tools are just here to be here. Just to be exist. Like this bubble pistol. The bubble generated by it just pretty underwhelming, and it has a cooldown, by the way. It has a cooldown for a bubble pistol. Why? And of course the infamous silly pet you got from events are just basically making noises. And speaking of tools, we're not gonna forget about the musical tools. This is probably the coolest things. The musical tools are cool, but there are plenty of problems with it. I'm trying to make a song, by the way, but it's not working because the lyre only has major keys, while the vintage lyre, the one that we use for the Aranara quest, has a mix between major and minor keys randomly. And the drum... yeah, we don't talk about the drums. We have other tools as well. The wind-powered wind generator is just a worse Kazuha skills, with 20 seconds cooldown, by the way. The Jumpy Dumpty Party Popper has 10 seconds cooldown. And Fishing Line Stabilizer, I don't even know what this thing do because, fishing isn't really a problem for me anyway. For me, the best tool is the musical tools and the launching tube, so you can launch some fireworks. But again, there is no new fireworks added until now, it's just there. The problem for these tools is just they are there to be exist and nothing else. Let's move on to some problem regarding events. Some events are really fun, but it only happens for a limited time. It's really fun, like the wind trace where we can just do some hide and seek with other players, but we haven't gotten that since such a long time. I forgot when we last having a wind trace. I would also like to mention that in no way newer players can enjoy some older event like in early version. Meanwhile, those kind of events usually having some kind of really great storyline in it. Some events even give you some exclusive weapons that you can only get during that event, which lead to the next problems, which is the unobtainable weapons. As a player who starts in version 2.0, in my account I don't have a specific weapons like Festering Desire and the Dodo Coastels. Some players who play after version 2.1 and have Albedo in their account can't get the Cinnabar Spindle Sword, which is literally the only defense stat 4-star weapons in the game currently. And let's nitpick on something that we forget a little bit. The Teapot. The Sereny Teapot is probably the best way for players to get creative in the game, but I don't know why the Teapot has very limited amount of placements. Are you telling me that my empty house with 4.5 people inside is already reached its limit? Like, I don't mind having a limit, but the limit is just a bit too small in my opinion. Dehya, the character that probably makes players questioning the development team when designing battle kits for their characters. Dehya is one of the most anticipated characters by fans during the Sumeru era that pretty much got the most inconsistent kit. Dehya is one of the few characters that has dual scaling, which is HP and attack in this case. She has the tanking mechanics as her skills, which can mitigate damage, and has a rather badass ultimate with barrage of punches, but with not so big damage multiplier and requires high amount of energy. Her ultimate might looks like a barrage of punches, consecutive punches, but the punch doesn't count as a normal attack, so she can't proc the usual normal attack support like Yunjin, as well as the vaporize support like Xingqiu and Yelan. Her ultimate can be easily cancelled by just simply pressing jump. Yes, just jump. So if you messed up by accidentally jumping, you have to get another 70 energy costs to get her ultimate back again. The only support that probably works perfectly with her ultimate is the Hydro Archon character herself, Farina, even though Farina is just a broken character in general. So until this time, Dehya's playstyle doesn't have a specific support. What enraged fans during her release is the fact that no significant changes were made for her, and worse, they threw her into the standard banner characters after the end of version 3.5, which is adding insult to injury for Dehya's fans, and this accident honestly making the standard banner roster become a bit weird since there are two Pyro Claymores characters now, Diluc and Dehya, which one might argue the former is much better in terms of battle kits. The problem with Genshin Impact though is the lack of balance improvement or balance patch updates after the character's release. They release and they just there, without any balance update, just forgotten. So since this is this is not a live battle royale games or something, so Dehya will be likely the same in the future and will never get the changes she deserves, which is such a shame that this happened. Dehya has a lot of potential, by the way, and it's just confusing why Dehya is the way it is. After Dehya, let's talk about this forgotten quote-unquote Genshin characters, because she's not originally a Genshin character. Aloy, originally added as a collab characters between Genshin Impact and Horizon Dawn Zero, the protagonist of the Horizon Zero herself, Aloy, appeared in Genshin for the first time in September 2021, only in PlayStation platform. But later, in October 2021, Aloy was given for free for the players for all platforms. In Genshin, Aloy is a cryo bow user. As a character, I would say Aloy has not so much to offer anyway. Her skill having a massive 20 seconds cooldown, and ultimate is okay, I guess, that deal a single cryo damage. You can watch this video where I'm trying Aloy and just not impressed with it. The issue with Aloy is not about the kit though, it's about how forgotten she is now. She has no story. Yes, no story. No event appearances. No interaction with other characters. No info about how she ended up here. And most importantly, no constellations can be obtained. She is just there, standing menacingly, without any purpose and without any goal. I don't know if this collaboration is still on, but I just feel it is such a wasted potential that Aloy could have some kind of storyline of how she's ended up here. Even a simple storyline like, maybe Aloy just found herself in the wilderness, suddenly stopped by Amber, just like the Traveler's origin story, and we can help her possibly going back to her timeline. Man, I don't know. You guys can create your own storyline in the comment below. In conclusion, Aloy deserves justice. After more than 3 years of Genshin's release, Amber, Kaya, and Lisa never appeared in the limited banner even once. The only way you can get their constellation is by pulling in the standard banner, or buying a copy from Paimon's Bargains, which only appears twice every year. Like, I literally can't see the reason behind this. It took me more than 2 years to finally reach a C6 Amber. I don't wanna be that guy, but come on man. The neighboring game, Honkai Star Rail, literally have March 7th, the first girl in Star Rail, be promoted in the second ever limited banner, in version 1.0. Imagine that. So I just can't understand the reason why it is impossible to put Amber in the limited banner, or Kaya and Lisa. It just makes no sense to me. Oh my god, this is gonna be a long one. Let's move on to this topic. Speaking of endgame content, Genshin introduces us to version 3.3, to the new in-game permanent mode, in the form of trading card game called the Genius Invocation TCG. I have a couple of questions about this. The first one being, why? And the second one being, why? While the players really love the combats and exploration system in the game, Genshin given us a game mode that has nothing to do with the main concept of the game itself, which is an open world exploration game. I've got nothing against the TCG players or TCG fans. I play it myself. Back then when TCG first released, I felt a bit weird about it. There's no hype at all. It can be an interesting game mode on its own, but I'm just not a big fan of it. First of all, TCG is very inconvenient. Imagine you just wanna play Genius Invocation TCG, let's say. You have to log into Genshin, go to Cat's Tail, and interact with NPC. It's just so inconvenient and so random. Second of all, the storyline involving TCG also makes no sense. In 3.3, the Genius Invocation TCG is said to be a really popular game among the people of Teapot, and taking it like storm. While before 3.3, we never heard this game in the first place at all. It just suddenly, people loved it, and society playing it without we knowing it before. I don't want to forget to mention about the infamous version 3.7, where we got a whole event centered around the TCG and how TCG has become a worldwide game that society loves so much to the point that it has an international competition about it. In that event, we got a backstory of how TCG was made by its creators. And the story is okay, and the characters' interaction are actually pretty funny. You know, we love Sino. I love Sino. But this storyline is pretty awkward considering the creator of TCG are just another forgettable NPCs, making it not so memorable for me. So my complaint about TCG doesn't stop here. While still on the topic of this TCG genre, let's talk about the game itself. I did play the games for quite many times, so there are plenty of problems that I think makes this game mode pretty clunky and boring to play. First, too much unnecessary animations, from cards animations to this one thing, the most important thing, is the dice rolling animations. It takes way too many of your time, and it's end up just seeing you roll a bad cluster of dice. It's just making you so infuriating anyway. Second, why we can only play 8 dice at one time? The normal attack literally uses 3. And we also use dice for support cards. You can practically just 3 clicks or 4 clicks them, and then bam, your dice gone. And you have to suffer again by waiting to finish the rolling animation again. It's just so inconvenient. Third, why we can only use 3 characters, while in the overworld we can use 4? Why? Fourth one, so many support cards, way too many support cards. It's too overwhelming. I genuinely can't think which one is good support and which ones are bad, because each card has bajillion amount of description to read. The only thing that I could give as a fix in this TCG is just to make it like a turn-based games, really. I couldn't think of any better fix since I'm not really enjoying the TCG system at the moment and would probably never enjoy this until they make TCG actually have an enjoyable system. Spoiler alert, probably gonna have a lot of spoilers ahead, so yeah, here we go. Let's talk about the Traveler's inconsistent writing. I have a questions for you guys. What do you guys think when you see the Traveler? Are they a self-insert character or just a character on its own? To this day, I still don't know. No matter what you think, there are so many inconsistencies throughout the board on the Traveler characterizations. The Traveler fighting skills, let's say. So without a doubt, Travelers is a strong fighter, but how strong, we don't know. One time, they beat up a Harbinger in 1v1 battle. Next time, they pass out because of gas. One time, they tank a huge robot. Next time, they pass out again by radio signals. I just couldn't understand what is actually the Traveler. The second problem is the Traveler has all the appeal points according to the characters. This is so infuriating me. So, Traveler can cook to a 5-star level meal, making many chefs should feel ashamed about their skills. Traveler can fight the people who train martial arts for their entire life. Traveler can obtain all 7 elements and use it in battle. Travelers are a natural gliding master. Traveler are a talented card gamer. Traveler is a good writer. Traveler is a master of beetle battle trainer. Traveler is a master of fungi trainer. Traveler can do everything. They are the master of all trades and jack of none. I'm waiting for a moment where the Traveler actually lose in a tournament. In that kind of event. It just makes them has no character for me. Hell, even shonen protagonist has weak points. Okay, let's talk about the NPC. The NPC in this game has a long conversation. This is the thing that everyone really hates. Small problems, but rather annoying. The random NPC in this game sometimes taking their time to say some of the most mundane lines in the game, not get to the point. Even on daily mission NPC, dailies, where we're supposed to clear it quickly, has so many things to say. NPC has so many lines to say, even in the story quests and Archon quests. I think we should reduce the amount of lines they have and make everything just get to the point. Speaking of storylines, let's talk about world quests. World quests in Genshin are actually really good. Some of them are actually pretty emotional, not gonna lie. The little problem is it has no voiceover. For such a story has no voiceover is such a crime, even though that's not the biggest problem for me. The biggest problem is the world quests never have a connection to the main story. For how good it is, no major characters has talked about it, even though it's kinda related to them in a certain degree. The Tatarasuna quest and the Sacred Sakura cleansing quest had something to do with the gods' remain. Yet the local god characters never really talk about it, especially because it's the traveler who fixed the problem. They never thank the traveler for anything. Some world quests literally change the entire form of landscape there. All quests have something to do with the gods, yet the traveler just casually fixed them. And again, no playable characters actually care about it in the main storyline. The world quests, for me, are both significant and insignificant at the same time. They gave you a huge story lore bomb, but at the same time, nobody is talking about it in the main story. It's super weird for me. Speaking of playable characters, some characters canonically never appear in the story. If you never do events, you technically never meet Fischl and Xinyan. Few characters never appear in the non-event storyline, like the Archon quest, story quests, nor the Hangout quests. This is why we should be able to access the old events, because the newer players doesn't have access to it. Last but not least, let's talk about the birthday message. You know, it's a really nice touch for hoyoverse to give characters' birthday as a special day for them. You know, this day is the theme for them. We got messages from certain characters when they're in birthday, but that's about it. The character never appear anywhere, even though they said, "Hey, we're here, I want to invite you, let's hang out, let's have a picnic together." You visit the location and nobody came. I think it will be more meaningful if in the character's birthday, we can meet the actual birthday character. No need to be voiceover, just a silent meeting conversation, or maybe just a simple mission that can make their birthday a bit more meaningful. I guess that's it for now. If you have any more things you can add, do let me know in the comments. If you like this kind of video, please consider to subscribe because I wanna make a similar video with Honkai Star Rail. I hope you guys enjoyed and see you guys again in the next video.